Hello, everybody. We are here today with Dr. Nancy Henaku to talk about the Rhetoric Society of Ghana. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you.
All right, so our first question is just kind of background into what is the Rhetoric Society of Ghana and kind of the purpose behind the organization.
So the Rhetoric Society of Ghana is an academic organization that seeks to bring together scholars working on aspects of Ghanaian rhetoric. And our purpose for sort of creating this organization is to, I guess, the intention was to create a transnational academic organization, a transnational and transdisciplinary academic organization that allows people to theorize about rhetoric and rhetorical practices using Ghana as a center. Yes. So that's our purpose for creating the organization. Or that's what the organization is for.
Thank you. Our next question, what made you want to start and or be a part of this organization?
So we started this organization because, it's a number of people came together to start this organization. And most of these people, including myself, are actually colleagues and friends, right, who have a shared interest in rhetorical practices. And most importantly, all of us, or I guess most of us, come from Ghana. And so that's one of the reasons why we chose Ghana as a place from which, or I guess a space from which we could begin to theorize about rhetorical practices. But based on our own experiences as scholars within the United States, and I guess this is very important because, rhetoric is a field that is, I guess it's more popular within the US. When you go to Europe, I think much emphasis is placed on discourse analysis or discourse studies and maybe argumentation. But when people talk about rhetorical studies, a lot of the times it's, North America that comes to mind, particularly the United States. And most of the people involved in the Rhetoric Society of Ghana have training in rhetoric in the United States, right? So I, for instance, came to Michigan Tech as a doctoral student to study rhetoric theory and culture. But then I am going back home, and rhetoric is not necessarily a popular field of study, although of course I could go to an English department, and as part of my work, I would teach, rhetoric or research rhetoric, right? So the point was to be able to create this organization that allows us, to network all of the people who have some shared research interests in rhetorical practices in Ghana, to network and to intentionally create an organization that will speak to our specific rhetorical experiences and traditions. But most importantly, rhetoric as we know it is also very much informed by its Western historical origins, if I should put it that way. And recently, there's been some call for diversification of the field, right? Bringing in perspectives from other traditions, rhetorical traditions, and we think that Africa especially has been perspectives from African rhetorical traditions are important in the field, and of course we can't do it all because the continent is. There are so many countries on the continent. And so we decided to focus on Ghana, which is a space that is somehow connected to all of us, right? And then at least use Ghana as one of the spaces from which we can begin to theorize, I guess, an Afrocentric perspective on rhetorical scholarship and research and performance as well.
All right, thank you for kind of expanding on that. That's a really great explanation on kind of what you guys do.
Yes.
So I guess looking forward to the next 5 years or so, what would be your vision and hope for the organization that you would be able to accomplish?
Yeah, so in the next 5 years, we hope to intentionally build an organization that will be effective in bringing together scholars, right? So this is part of, we've started the process, but we are still at the beginning stages of this process. And so for the next 5 years, our intention is to, use all kinds of strategies, and that includes, providing multiple opportunities for people to get together to basically talk about the future of the organization, and then also begin to present their work and share ideas and network, intentionally network in ways that will help advance I guess Ghanaian perspectives on rhetoric. Yeah. So for the next 5 years, that's what we hope to do. Intentionally try to build this organization so that it would be effective in helping bring people together to advance scholarship on Ghanaian rhetorical practices.
Absolutely. Networking is such a powerful tool in any organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you touched on this a little bit before, but so what does like the Rhetoric Society of Ghana mean to you more on like an emotional level?
Well, I personally, I've already mentioned, I come from Ghana, and so I guess that is one motivation for me. And then, but besides coming from Ghana, I think that as a field, and I mean rhetoric as a field, needs to have multiple perspectives in order to understand, the implications of human communication. I make this argument because it's important that we recognize that the human experience is diverse, and this human experience is communicated in various ways, um, um, and this communication is impacted by different cultural practices and experiences. And then, of course, although a lot of the times we also want to talk about the differences in human connections and human communication, there are also these similarities across cultures and traditions. And I think that for me, in working together with other scholars to focus on Ghanaian rhetorical practices, I think part of what drives me emotionally is the fact that it allows me to bring my experiences to whatever larger discussions we are having within the field of rhetoric, and to basically help people to recognize that even in spite of the differences in communication practices, there are also some fundamental similarities that bring all of us together as part of this great human story. Hi.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that question, that insight a little bit more. I guess our next question that we had was, what do prospective members need to do to join the organization?
So I think that's very simple. We currently have a Facebook page called Rhetoric. I think Rhetoric. I'm not quite sure if we changed the name yet, but if you typed Rhetoric Society of Ghana, the Facebook page should pop up. And so if you're interested, if anyone is interested in joining the group, they can join the group by going to the Facebook page, asking to join the page. They can also decide to send us an email through rhetoricghana@gmail.com, right? So if the person sends an email to rhetoricghana@gmail.com, or request to join the Facebook group, Rhetoric Society of Ghana, we should be able to get them in. But you should have some interest in rhetoric, and we take all kinds of members, student members, faculty, people who are actively teaching and researching rhetoric, some aspect of rhetoric generally, and then also Ghanaian rhetoric, and then also people who are practitioners of rhetoric, right? So we are not just interested in students and teachers of rhetoric, but also practitioners of people who are actively practicing rhetorical rhetoric in, say, their profession, are also welcome to join the organization.
All right, thanks for that insight on how to join. And then our last question that we have for today is kind of just us asking because we aren't too familiar with it, but what would be a question that you would like to be asked that we don't know enough about the org to ask you? Maybe just something that's like one thing that you would like everybody to know about the Rhetoric Society of Ghana, maybe.
Okay, I guess I just want to talk about our future project.
Okay.
Or some of the projects we are currently working on. So we're currently working on 2 projects. One of the projects curates Ghana's experiences with the coronavirus. And so it brings together all kinds of pieces. Some of them are reflective pieces, some of them are poetry, some of them are academic work on aspects of Ghana's experiences with the coronavirus. And all of these use some aspects. We are basically curating this from a communicative perspective, and we have a very broad sense of what communication is, right? So we have some of the papers looking at music and its connection to Ghana's responses to the coronavirus, and so on. And then the second project looks at the communicative dimensions of Ghana's 2020 elections, presidential and parliamentary elections. So I think the first project on coronavirus should be ready and published by 2021. And then the second project should be published by 2022. So these are some of the projects we're working on. In future, we hope to work on other projects and then also organize webinars and workshops, particularly for graduate students who have interest in understanding or building their knowledge in some aspect of rhetorical analysis and theory.
All right, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so those are some of the things we are hoping to do.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Of course.